The Great Escape is a 1963 American war film, with elements of adventure and suspense, starring Steve McQueen, James Garner and Richard Attenborough and featuring James Donald, Charles Bronson, Donald Pleasence, James Coburn, Hannes Messemer, David McCallum, Karl-Otto Alberty, Gordon Jackson, John Leyton and Angus Lennie. It was filmed in Panavision. The film is based on Paul Brickill's 1950 non-fiction book of the same name, a first-hand account of the mass escape by British Commonwealth prisoners of war from German POW camp Stalag Luft III in Sagan, now Żagań, Poland, in the Nazi Germany province of Lower Silesia. The film depicts a heavily fictionalized version of the escape, with numerous compromises for its commercial appeal, such as focusing more on American involvement in the escape. The Great Escape was made by the Mirisch Company, released by United Artists, and produced and directed by John Sturges. The film had its royal world premiere at the Odeon Leicester Square in London's West End on June 20, 1963. The Great Escape emerged as one of the highest-grossing films of the year, winning McQueen the award for Best Actor at the Moscow International Film Festival, and is now considered a classic. The Great Escape is also noted for its motorcycle chase and jump scene, which is considered one of the best stunts ever performed. Plot: in late 1942, having expended enormous resources on recapturing escaped Allied POWs, the Nazi German armed forces moved the most determined to Stalag Luft III, a new, max security prisoner of war camp supervised by Luftwaffe Colonel von Luger. The Prisoners' Escape Committee, the X organization, led by Big X, RAF squadron leader Roger Bartlett, a former prisoner of the Gestapo, and with the support of senior British officer group Captain Ramsey, mount an audacious plan to tunnel out of the camp and break out 250 men, not just to escape, but so that German manpower will be wasted on finding POWs. The men organize into teams, simultaneously working on 3 tunnels: Tom, Dick, and Harry. American Flight Lieutenant Bob Hendley can find anything, from a camera to identity cards. Australian Flying Officer Sedgwick makes tools like picks and bellows for pumping air into the tunnels. Flight Lieutenants Danny Valinsky and Willie Dix are in charge of digging the tunnels. Flight Lieutenant Andy MacDonald, Bartlett's second-in-command, gathers and provides intelligence. Lieutenant Commander Eric Ashley Pitt of the Royal Navy devises a method of hiding dirt from the tunnels under the guards' noses. Flight Lieutenant Griffith creates civilian outfits from scavenged cloth for the POWs to wear after the escape. Guy Nimmo and Haynes are in charge of diverting the guards' attention to other things in the camp in order to pull off the more risky parts of the operation unnoticed. Soren is in charge of security. Forging papers to get to freedom is handled by Flight Lieutenant Colin Blythe. The work noise is covered by the prisoner choir led by Flight Lieutenant Dennis Cavendish, who also does surveys to measure the tunnel. On June 20, 1943, Bartlett asks Assault Captain Virgil Hiltz, who is attempting escapes with Scottish flying officer Archie Ives RAF but being constantly imprisoned in solitary confinement in the cooler, to help in the escape by getting out through the barbed wire, scouting out the area, and then allowing himself to be recaptured. Hiltz refuses. Bartlett orders Dick and Harry sealed off, as Tom is closest to completion. After hoarding potatoes, Hiltz, Hendley and American 2nd Lieutenant Goff concoct moonshine from a homemade still and celebrate the 4th of July with the entire camp. In the midst of the celebration, the guards discover Tom. As the POWs react with dismay, a despondent Ives frantically climbs the barbed wire fence and is shot dead. Hiltz volunteers to provide reconnaissance from outside the camp and Bartlett switches the prisoners' efforts to Harry. After the information Hiltz brings back is used to create maps to guide the escapers. After experiencing a tunnel collapse, a claustrophobic Danny tries to break out through the fence but agrees to try the tunnel when Willie promises his support. Blythe discovers that he is going blind due to progressive myopia. Hendley takes it upon himself to be Blythe's guide in the escape. The last part of the tunnel is completed on the scheduled night, March 24, 1944, and despite some mishaps, such as the tunnel being 20 feet, 6 meters, short, 76 prisoners, including Bartlett, MacDonald, Hendley, Blythe, Hiltz, Ashley Pitt, Danny, Willie, Sedgwick, Cavendish, Nimmo and Haynes escape out the tunnel, aided by Hiltz using 30 feet of rope as a guide, and an air raid blackout. Cavendish slips and falls after exiting the tunnel, which leads to him drawing a guard's attention and nearly being caught. However, the escape attempts ultimately end when an impatient Griffith exits the tunnel in view of a guard and is captured immediately. The 76 POWs flee through the Third Reich. Cavendish hitchhikes in a truck but is delivered to the authorities where he finds Haynes, disguised as a German soldier, captured. Henley and Blythe steal a plane to fly over the Swiss border, but the engine fails, and they crash land. Blythe is shot and dies, while Henley is recaptured. Hilth steals a motorcycle at a crossroads, heading for the German-Swiss border to escape pursuing German soldiers. He begins jumping barbed wire fences but soldiers shoot out the bike's tire, and he is recaptured. Ashley Pitt is shot and killed at a railway station when he causes a distraction to save MacDonald and Bartlett, but they are recaptured after a Gestapo officer tricks them into speaking English. On the orders of Adolf Hitler, the Gestapo murder 48 of the prisoners, including Bartlett, MacDonald, Cavendish and Haynes, on the pretext that they were trying to escape, bringing the total dead to 50. Only 3 POWs escape. Danny and Willie steal a rowing boat and proceed downstream to a port, where they board a merchant ship bound for Sweden. Sedgwick steals a bicycle, then rides on a train to France, where the French resistance assists him in reaching Spain. Henley, Nimmo and 9 others are returned to the camp. When informed of the dead, Henley wonders if the cost was worth it, and Ramsey tells him it depends on his point of view. Von Luger is relieved of command as Hiltz returns and is sent to the cooler, where he plans another escape.